Have you ever walked into a room and instantly commanded respect without saying a word? Your presence is felt, your confidence is palpable, and people can't help but be drawn to you. This isn't just about charisma, it's about the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, and the way you think. Today, we're going to explore 8 smart phrases that will instantly raise your status, and it all starts with a fundamental shift in your mindset. You see, when you speak, you're not just conveying information, you're conveying your character, your values, and your intentions. The right words, spoken at the right time, can be incredibly powerful, and that's what we're going to dive into. First, let's talk about the phrase, "I'm not interested in being right, I'm interested in being effective." This is a phrase that separates the amateurs from the professionals, the winners from the losers. When you're more focused on being right, you're going to come across as arrogant, close-minded, and uncooperative. But when you're focused on being effective, you're open to new ideas, you're willing to listen, and you're willing to adapt. This phrase shows that you're more concerned with achieving your goals than with feeding your ego. For example, imagine you're in a meeting and someone presents an idea that you don't entirely agree with. Instead of shutting it down, you say, "I'm not interested in being right, I'm interested in being effective. Let's explore this idea further and see how we can make it work." Second, let's talk about the phrase, "I'd rather be a student for a lifetime than a master for a day." This phrase shows that you're committed to continuous learning, growth, and self-improvement. When you adopt this mindset, you're more likely to ask questions, seek feedback, and listen to others. You're not afraid to say, "I don't know," because you understand that ignorance is not a weakness, but an opportunity to learn. For instance, imagine you're in a conversation with someone who's an expert in their field. Instead of trying to pretend like you know it all, you say, "I'd rather be a student for a lifetime than a master for a day. Can you teach me more about this topic?" Third, the phrase, "My goal is not to win an argument, but to win a relationship." This phrase is all about perspective. It's about understanding that relationships are more valuable than being right. When you're more focused on winning an argument, you're going to come across as confrontational, aggressive, and uncooperative. But when you're focused on building a relationship, you're more likely to listen, to empathize, and to find common ground. For example, imagine you're in a disagreement with someone and you say, "My goal is not to win an argument, but to win a relationship. Let's focus on finding a solution that works for both of us." Fourth, let's talk about the phrase, "I'm not a product of my circumstances, I'm a product of my decisions." This phrase is all about taking ownership. It's about understanding that you have the power to choose your own path. When you blame your circumstances, you're giving away your power, you're becoming a victim. But when you take ownership of your decisions, you're taking control of your life, you're becoming the architect of your own destiny. For instance, imagine you're facing a difficult situation and you say, "I'm not a product of my circumstances, I'm a product of my decisions. I'm going to choose how I respond to this challenge." Fifth, the phrase, "I don't have to be perfect, I just have to be better than I was yesterday." This phrase is all about progress. It's about understanding that perfection is not the goal, but improvement is. When you strive for perfection, you're going to be disappointed, you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to give up. But when you focus on progress, you're more likely to take action, to learn from your mistakes, and to keep moving forward. For example, imagine you're working on a project and you're not satisfied with your progress. Instead of beating yourself up over it, you say, "I don't have to be perfect, I just have to be better than I was yesterday. Let's keep moving forward and see how we can improve." Sixth, let's talk about the phrase, "I'm not competing with anyone, I'm competing with myself." This phrase is all about focus. It's about understanding that the only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. When you're competing with others, you're going to be distracted, you're going to be anxious, and you're going to be unhappy. But when you're competing with yourself, you're more likely to be motivated, to be disciplined, and to be fulfilled. For instance, imagine you're an athlete and you're training for a competition. Instead of comparing yourself to others, you say, "I'm not competing with anyone, I'm competing with myself. Let's see how far I can push myself." Seventh, the phrase, "I'd rather have a few close friends than 1,000 acquaintances." This phrase is all about quality. It's about understanding that the relationships you have are more important than the number of relationships you have. When you're focused on building a large network, you're going to be shallow, you're going to be superficial, and you're going to be unfulfilled. But when you're focused on building deep, meaningful relationships, you're more likely to be happy, to be supported, and to be successful. For example, imagine you're at a party and you're surrounded by people you don't really know. Instead of trying to impress everyone, you say, "I'd rather have a few close friends than 1,000 acquaintances. Let's go find someone who shares our values and interests." Eighth, and finally, let's talk about the phrase, "I'm not afraid of failure, I'm afraid of not trying." This phrase is all about courage. It's about understanding that the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. When you're afraid of failure, you're going to be paralyzed, you're going to be stuck, and you're going to be unfulfilled. But when you're willing to take risks, you're more likely to learn, to grow, and to succeed. For instance, imagine you have an idea for a new business, but you're afraid of failing. Instead of letting fear hold you back, you say, "I'm not afraid of failure, I'm afraid of not trying. Let's take the leap and see where it takes us." These 8 smart phrases will instantly raise your status because they show that you're confident, you're self-aware, and you're committed to growth. They show that you're not afraid to be vulnerable, to take risks, and to learn from your mistakes. So, I want to leave you with a challenge today. I want you to start using these phrases in your daily life, to start speaking with confidence, with authority, and with purpose. Remember, the way you speak is a reflection of the way you think, and the way you think is a reflection of who you are. So, let's choose to speak with intention, let's choose to speak with power, and let's choose to speak with wisdom. The question is, what's going to be your first phrase? What's going to be the first phrase you use to raise your status, to build your confidence, and to change your life?